Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we have another beer that I think will be very interesting. So this one is part American, part German and part Norwegian. It's another collaboration beer, and this was yet another of the small partiers that were released through Systembolaget on the 18th of January 2019. So as I say, very curious to see how this particular beer turns out. So for this one we are going to return to Stone Brewing Berlin for the third or fourth time, and this is a collaboration beer that they did with Lervig Aktiebryggeri, who are from Stavanger up in Norway. You know, two very well known breweries involved in this one. This beer is called Hi, I'm Kveik. It's an IPA coming in at 6.2%, and this one uses a Norwegian Farmhouse yeast apparently. The only encounter I've had with something like this before, as far as I can remember, is the Norwegian Wood from Untappd, which is from in Drammen in Norway. They had a beer called Norwegian Wood, which was this lovely big bready sort of smoky type thing as well. It had like spruce tips or something like that in it too. It was a lovely beer. So those yeasts are really interesting. So I'm very curious to see what it can do in an IPA. Kveik apparently is one of the various Norwegian words that you can get for yeast actually. So yeah, really interesting beer, this one. One of the ones that I'm more curious about in recent times actually. So yeah, looking forward to this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done both from Stone and from Lervig. No doubt I will add some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you, and one for all the Norwegian, and one for all the Germans as well. I guess this beer probably will appear in all three of those, because you know, Stone, American company, this particular brewery based in Germany, and of course Lervig are Norwegian, so probably all three lists for this beer. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Stone Brewing then. So Stone Brewing, since these guys are the home brewery, are the one we will go to first. These guys were founded back in 1996 in San Marcos, California by Steve Wagner and Greg Koch, and this location is now home. Their original location, I guess I should say, is home to Port Brewing Company and the Lost Abbey Brewery, who are really quite well regarded these days. In 2006 though, Stone moved to a new custom built facility in Escondido, which is also home to their restaurant Stone Brewing World and Gardens. But they opened a second restaurant of the same name in the Point Loma district in San Diego, and they also own stores in Oceanside, Pasadena, and also South Park and Little Italy in San Diego as well. But in 2014 the brewery brewed around 287,000 barrels of beer, which made them the 9th largest craft brewery in America. So the brewery announced plans for expansion in the US and Germany in 2014, and they opened the Berlin facility in 2016, which is equipped with a 100 hectolitre brewery, and it can be found in the Mariendorf district. And this brewery is responsible for pretty much all the Stone beer that you're going to find in Europe. And of course the beers brewed at Stone in Europe I think are exclusively in cans. I don't think they do any bottling out of that facility in Berlin. But they also opened a restaurant called the Library Bar in the summer of 2016 to complement the brewery, and that same year they also opened up a brewery in Richmond in Virginia, which began operations in July, and they've opened up a facility in Napa in California as well. And today they're employing over 1,000 people, and they're still the 9th largest craft brewery over in America. So yeah, a company that's very well known. They've Stone Brewing are often cited as one of the ones that have influenced a lot of people. You know, one of the slightly more modern American craft brews. You know, the ones that everyone always thinks about are probably Anchor Brewing Company and Sierra Nevada. They're probably the two kind of pinnacle breweries if you like, but there's a hell of a lot of good Californian breweries, and you know, California, at least to Europeans like me, you know, California and Colorado, those are the states that everyone thinks about when it comes to craft beer. And of course you've got the whole New England region thing popping up these days too. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Stone Brewing just now. If you want to learn a little bit more, check out the brewery website in the description below, and you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, and keep up to date with the latest goings on. But yeah, yeah, let's go on to Lervig Aktiebryggeri. We'll go on to the Norwegian side of this brewery then. So as I mentioned to you earlier, Lervig Aktiebryggeri are based in Stavanger, which is in southwestern Norway, and this is the main oil city over there, of course. I studied in Aberdeen in Scotland on the other side of the North Sea, which is the Scottish oil city. But Lervig Aktiebryggeri was founded in 2003 after the Toa brewery was sold to Carlsberg, and subsequently production was then moved to Oslo. For a while these beers were produced at the Mac Ull brewery in Tromsø, however production was then moved to Hillevåg in Stavanger back in 2005. But the head brewer for Lervig is Mike Murphy, and he's been with them since 2010. Prior to this, the brewery were making many kind of light lager beers, but Mike moved them more towards making the American IPAs and imperial stouts and things like this, and they've built a huge reputation as a result of that. But apparently he had played quite an important role in the Danish craft beer scene, and he collaborated with several renowned brewers such as Mikael and Jeppe Bjergso as well, Mikaela and Evil Twins, Sean Hill, and also Andreas Kiesmayer as well. But he's also worked for Birra del Borgo in Italy for a while, and he owns 5% of this company as well. So, you know, Mike is very invested in the Lervig Aktiebryggeri. But the main owner of the brewery is Christopher Stensrud, who owns 67% of the shares, and in total the brewery now exports nearly 20% of all the beers exported from Norway. You know, the Lervig Aktiebryggeri are definitely one of the bigger craft beer operations over there. You know, all started off with Nøgne with Keitel Yikun, but he's now brewing beers in Crete, which is really quite interesting. The beers down there that he's doing tend to be very, very nice. So yeah, I think outside of Nøgne, I think the biggest export brewery from Norway is now Lervig Aktiebryggeri, and they are doing some pretty damn awesome stuff. There's a couple of beers from Lervig that a lot of people have been telling me to try and get a hold of, so I need to keep an eye out for those when I go over to Copenhagen next time, and I really do need to get a trip up to Norway. It's just one of these places though that unfortunately is a little bit expensive, so yeah, that's something I definitely want to do in the future. But yeah, a very, very well respected brewery these days, and I remember trying one of the first beers that I think it was the Red Ale that I tried the first time. That was exported over to Scotland, and it was one of the first Norwegian beers that I've reviewed. And I know there's quite a few people that watch the channel from Norway as well, and have done for a long time, so I do hope that I can review some more Norwegian beers for you over the next little while. But yeah, very interesting breweries involved in this one, and I'm certainly looking forward to tasting this beer. If you want to learn more about Lervig, do check out the brewery website in the description below, and again, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So this one, as I mentioned to you, is a 6.2% IPA. The hops in this are Citra, Azaka and Mandarina Bavaria, so it should give us a nice mangoey orange type thing, and it's also got some wheat malts, oat malts, and also the Hornindal Kveik yeast, which, as I mentioned to you, is a kind of traditional Norwegian farmhouse yeast. So yeah, we can get rid of the brewery notes now, and we can actually just focus on the beer. So on the side here it says Lervig Stone, hi, I'm Kveik. So we've teamed up with Lervig for our 6th and final Stone Unican release for 2018, a hop fermented Kveik IPA. Kveik is a special Norwegian yeast strain, specifically yeast used in old school farmhouse brewing. The yeast we used in this beer ferments hotter than most and brings a complex mix of fruity flavour into the beer. We top the recipe off with a typically Stone lupulin boost, creating a hoppy and deliciously complex IPA, the perfect way to wrap up our first year of the Stone Unican release. So yeah, lovely presented beer, this one. I love it that Stone do their beers in 500ml cans. I keep complaining about this. I don't know why there's so many breweries in Europe doing the 440ml thing. It's basically to get, you know, to kind of, it's almost in a way to copy the American breweries. The 440, because the American pint is somewhere around 440, 450ml if I remember correctly. So a lot of these breweries are trying to copy the American ones. I'm just like, use 330s or 500s, use the proper European measurements. But yeah, the 440 one to be exact is, you know, these sort of more tall boy cans, if you like. The 440 is a particular measurement that originated in the UK, but it's intended to copy the American breweries. But yeah, nicely presented beer, this one. There you can see the little bit of artwork on it. I'm just checking that you can see that on the camera. You can see there's the Stone Brewing symbol, and there's the Lervig symbol as well, the star. It tells you a little bit in different languages, in the blue here and in the pink. It's got, that's the little bit I was reading earlier. But yeah, you can recycle it. It does tell you to recycle because Germany is good that way. They're very, very good at recycling. And yeah, without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this beer throws up. And as I mentioned, this is one that came through at the Små Partiers on the 18th of January 2019 through Systembolaget here in Sweden. And usually the Stone beers instantly, you know, they've got a big production down there in Germany, so the Stone beers are one of the ones that you can get even in the smaller Systembolagets. They're not one of the ones that you have to go to the boutique stores in Gothenburg, Malmö or Stockholm for. But yeah, as you can see with this one, it's poured a lovely bright yellow colour, that one. It's quite hazy as well. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see this beer is quite hazy. There's a solid finger or two, finger and a half I would say, of a creamy, yes, kind of a creamy white head, this one. Not a perfect white head. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall it does look really quite nice actually, and I like how everything is I like how this one appears. It's actually the same colour as like a kind of saison or something like that. A lot of saisons have this very bright yellow colour, you know, one of these Belgian farmhouse beers. And yeah, as I say, very curious to see how this one turns out. But yeah, in terms of appearance, you know, not this one isn't too far out of the way in terms of a colour of an IPA, but the colour I would think is a little bit more like, it's a little bit brighter in yellow compared to some other IPAs that I've seen. It does actually look a little bit more like a kind of saison or something. But yeah, colour isn't the most important thing, it's more important how the thing actually tastes, I would say. But yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. Oh yeah. So yeah, with this one you can definitely smell it. Almost has a little bit of that slight tartness that you get from the likes of the saisons and the grisettes and things like that. There's definitely a bit of that sharper lemony citrus coming out of this one. You can pick up straight away though the you can definitely you can pick up a lovely little bit of a nice orangey kind of tangerine sort of thing on this one. You really can pick that up quite nicely. It's got a little bit of a pineapple-y note to it as well. I've always found that Azacca gives you this nice kind of pineapple-y complexity too, which is really interesting. Azacca's, it's light, it's more like a kind of sharper mandarin-y orange from what I've always found. I've always said the Mosaic is a little bit more of a kind of tangerine orange, a little bit juicier. I've always found Azacca's a little bit more of a sharper mandarin-y orange, and then it's got a little bit of a kind of pineapple-y complexity to it. And Mandarina Bavaria, I think it's interesting because there's a little bit of that German noble hop quality, but it's got a more orangey, oily orange rather, which is kind of similar to the American Amarillo, which is the original big orange hop. Of course, I love the orangey hops. You know, Pacifica from New Zealand is another one that you have to kind of think about in this regard. But yeah, this one's a lovely, lovely smelling beer that I can see why they say there's so much complexity to the fruit, because I mean you can pick out mangoes, and that'll be from the citra mainly. There is an element of a mango to it, and that sort of sharper lemony citrus coming out of this one, that really mixes quite well with that. So yeah, mangoes, mandarins, a bit more of an oily orange in there as well, some pineapple. And it's got a little bit of an almost gooseberry thing as well. You can pick out a little bit of the lychee complexity from the... You can pick out a little bit of the lychee complexity from the citra in this one, which is really nice. There's a whole host of things going on in this one, which I really, really like. It's a lovely... there's a whole host of things going on with the fruity side of this beer. Beyond that though, you can definitely pick up a little bit of that German noble hoppy quality to it. There's a little touch of that slightly sweet earthiness in there, and some of the grassy and floral notes. That'll be coming from the Mandarina Bavaria, and I always love this about these German hops. Regardless of how fruity and alpha acid they are, you can always tell from the aroma that it's a German hop. And you know, it's one of these things that I love German traditional beer, and I love that with these higher alpha acid hops that they produce as well. But yeah, good little bit of a slightly stronger, spicier floral aromatic note to this one as well. I think that's the Azacca that gives you that. Although that said, the citra does give you a little bit of that American floral character as well. Some lighter grassy notes in there too. The malt base on this one is interesting. You can definitely pick up some of the oaty creaminess, but it's got a slightly more thicker, doughy white bready note to it as well, which again, when it's a farmhouse yeast in this one, is exactly what you would expect. But it's definitely got a little bit of that tart, lemony edge to it, which is very, very interesting. As I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it, particularly with one like this, which is quite unusual. But I don't want to wait any more for this. We're going to have a taste of this beer. So this one is the Hi, I'm Kveik, a Norwegian Farmhouse yeasted IPA, I guess you could say, from Stone Brewing Berlin, in collaboration with Lervig Aktiebryggeri from Stavanger in Norway. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, prost. That's quite interesting, that. This one, this beer for me is more about the aftertaste. A lot of the complexity with this one's a lot more, it's a lot more drinkable and sessionable than I was expecting it to be honest. I mean, I've always found the Saisons, I'm not saying they're hard to drink, but I can only ever, when it comes to the Weiss beers in Germany and things like that, and the big thick, wit beers and Saisons and stuff like this, I can only ever drink one of them. This is a really quite sessionable, drinkable beer, this, and that isn't quite what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be a little bit more kind of almost just a little bit more fuller in things, but this is quite a sessionable beer, that's really not what I expected, actually. Yeah, but I will say this, it's a nice beer. It does take your mouth a little bit to adjust to this one because there's a lot going on with it. And what I would say with this one is take a little sip of it first off, take a big gulp of it, and just let your whole palate adjust, and then actually start trying to analyse the flavour of it. Yeah, so let's take the middle of the palate first then with this one, because it's that that farmhouse yeast that we're really particularly interested in with this beer. So with this one then, you can feel that sort of white bready quality, that just blankets the middle of your palate. On top of that, it starts to get gradually a little bit more kind of thick. There's definitely a little bit more of a kind of thickness to this beer as you get further into it. And I think it gets a little bit more grainy and things the further forward you go into it. The malt base, you can feel that there's a little touch of an oaty creaminess to it, but I'm finding the malt base in this one, it's got that big bready quality to it. It's got a bit of oaty creaminess, but it's definitely got a little touch of a kind of grainy note to it as well. Yeah. It's really interesting that I've never come across a malt base that's quite like this one, and this is what you want as a beer reviewer. You do want beers that are going to make you think a little bit. But yeah, it's got a little bit of a Belgian-y quality, like an almost Belgian-y quality to it. It does have that thicker, doughy, bready kind of yeasty note, but at the same time, there's a hell of a lot of stuff kind of going on top of that. I really like what they're doing with this one. Just pay attention to the malt base in this, because you're not going to find another IPA that's quite like this. It's got a lot of smoothness to it, but then the further into the aftertaste you go, it has this little touch of a grainy spice. It's almost a little touch peppery as well. So just pay attention to that with this one. There's no sweetness to the malt base in this one though, it is more smoothness. In the back corners of the palate you can definitely pick up a little bit of an earthiness there. It's almost like a noble hoppy earthiness. When you come further forward, and by noble hoppy earthiness I mean it's just a little touch sweet, but when you come further forward, that just smooths out a little bit, and then you start to get these nice floral, grassy, aromatic notes towards the front corners of the palate. Again, I think the Mandarin of Bavaria is being used a little bit more heavily than the other hops, because the floral qualities in this one are distinctly German, and when you go round the front curve of the palate again, it's got that typical sort of lighter grassy note to it, and again it's the sides of your palate really scream German noble hop at you, and I think primarily that's down to the Mandarin of Bavaria. Although that said, I'm surprised that the American hops aren't pushing out a little bit more in terms of that floral quality, but maybe they've been used later in the brew where You know, where it is maybe used a little bit later in the brew, where they're not contributing to the bitterness in the same way. But yeah, behind the front curve of the palate, you've got this nice little oily bubble where those juicy, fruity esters start to come out of the beer. And this is really interesting because you definitely get some of that grassy sort of citrusy quality at the front of your palate, but then behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where the complexity of this beer really starts to come out. So yeah, in the beginning you get a little bit of that slightly more lemony sharpness to the beer, but then the further into the aftertaste you go, that just fades away, and you start to get the mangoes from the citra, you start to get the mandarins and the more juicy oranges out of the beer as well. I want to say around the front edge of the palate there's a little touch of a lychee and gooseberry sort of thing to this one. It's leaning more towards the kind of gooseberry side of things, but yeah, the further into the aftertaste you go, that noble hoppy quality that I was talking about is lingering there. Some of the graininess starts to come out from the malt base as well, and the bready qualities are there. This is a really just quite unusual beer, so have a go at it and just see what you think. You know, it's one of these ones that you really just can have to sit down and think about a little bit, and I like beers that test your palate like that. You know, you can drink all these New England IPAs, you can drink them as much as you like, but to me, you want things that are a little bit different. You don't want to drink kind of more of the same all the time. And Stone actually, the last couple of beers that I've had from Stone, Stone's operation in Berlin, have been really interesting, so I'll give them a thumbs up from that. And Lervig Aktiebryggeri always throw out some very interesting things too, so you know, have a go at beers from both of these breweries. They do some very interesting stuff. In terms of recommending this beer, if you like saisons, if you like a sort of Belgian-y saison, you will quite like this beer. If you like if you like the German IPAs, you know, the things like from Himburg's Braukunstkeller and things like that, you know, if you like these sort of German IPAs, then you will enjoy this one. The German IPAs are very interesting because they've got the big American flavours, but they still retain a little bit of that German, the Brauhaus smoothness, as I like to call it. The Germans probably laugh at me for calling it that, but I always find these German beers have, regardless of what they brew, it always has that typical German smoothness that you'll find from the Von Fass beers, the from Untappd beers in the Brauhauses, and this beer definitely does retain a little bit of that. So if you like smooth German traditional beer, you'll like this. If you like hoppy American IPAs, you'll like it. And if you like the more kind of farmhousey, Belgian-y type beers, then you'll like this one. But I would say it's not quite as big and bold in its malt base as some of those Belgian ones. It doesn't quite have the sort of almost stomach, the qualities that make you kind of jump out of the stomach a little bit with the Belgian beers. It doesn't feel quite as filling as that. It's more German and more smooth, if you like. In terms of the mouthfeel then, this beer I think is quite mid-bodied. Carbonation is very smooth. It is leaning more towards the smooth side of things in terms of the mouthfeel. IBUs, I think you're talking about 30-ish for this one, around 30 IBUs. Nice little bit of juicy fruitiness. Malt base is very, very smooth. As I say, there's almost a little touch of spice to it. There's not much in the way of sweetness from this beer, but overall it's a very, very interesting one and quite different from other things you're going to find on the market at the moment. So if you get the chance to try this, I do recommend that you have a go at it. And I'm glad that I was able to review this one here for you on the channel. So I really hope you've enjoyed my take on this one. This is one of the more unusual beers that I've reviewed for you over the last little while. And I would love to actually, if some of you guys in Norway are watching, do recommend some of the more traditional Norwegian farmhouse ales that I should look at. I would absolutely love to review some of those for you on the channel, because you know, a lot of the brewing in Scandinavia is more focused on the American style of beers because they've got a big culture of home brewing. It's quite rare actually to come across these traditional Scandinavian farmhouse beers, so I'd love to review more of those on the channel. So your recommendations from Denmark, Sweden, Norway, or you know, even out to Finland and Iceland and things, if those do exist there, do let me know. Traditional beer is always interesting to look at, but let's leave it at that for this one. So once again, this was the Hi, I'm Kveik, a collaboration Norwegian farmhouse IPA type beer from Stone Brewing in Berlin and Lervig Aktiebryggeri in Stavanger in Norway. And really interesting beer, this one, and I thank you again for watching my beer review. So until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Stone Berlin and from Lervig Aktiebryggeri. Do give me some recommendations of traditional Nordic farmhouse ales or any other traditional beers from across the world. It's always interesting to hear about those. Make sure you check out my social media, and I will catch you guys very soon. Make sure you try this beer because it's definitely something a little bit different. So yeah, until the next time, stand just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Prost, skål.